My beloved child, I know the nights that stretch longer than they should, the hours when your body is tired but your mind refuses to rest, when the room is quiet yet your thoughts are loud, replaying conversations, unfinished tasks, worries about tomorrow, and fears you never planned to carry into the night. And I want you to listen to me gently now, because I am with you in these moments, and you are not alone in the darkness you feel. I see how stress tightens your chest and keeps your breath shallow, how it convinces you that you must solve everything before you can sleep, how it whispers that rest is irresponsible when so much feels uncertain. And I understand how convincing that voice can be, because stress often pretends to be protection. But hear me clearly, my child, because rest is not avoidance and sleep is not weakness, it is trust. And trust is what allows your soul to lay down its burdens without fear. I am not asking you to silence your thoughts by force, and I am not disappointed that you cannot just relax, because peace does not arrive through effort. It arrives through presence, through allowing me to sit with you while your mind slowly unwinds. I know how you watch the minutes pass, how frustration grows as the night deepens, how you worry about being tired tomorrow, about not functioning well, about failing again because you could not rest. And I want you to know that this cycle does not define you, and it does not have authority over your life. I see the weight you carried into this night, the responsibilities you hold, the expectations placed on you, the pressure to be strong, capable, and reliable. And I know how those demands do not pause simply because the day ends. Yet I am here now to remind you that you were never meant to carry everything alone, especially not through the night. My child, when stress keeps you awake, it is often because your heart is trying to protect tomorrow by sacrificing tonight. But that exchange drains you rather than helps you, and I am inviting you to a different way, one where you place tomorrow in my hands and allow your body and mind to rest without guilt. You may fear that if you stop thinking, something will be missed, something will go wrong, something will fall apart. But look back with me for a moment and remember how many times you worried through the night only to find that morning brought clarity you could not force in the dark. Stress promises control, but it rarely delivers peace, and I am offering you peace that does not depend on control. I know your mind jumps ahead, planning, preparing, anticipating problems because uncertainty feels threatening, and I understand that instinct. Yet I want you to hear this truth settle gently within you, because you do not need to stay alert all night to be safe, and you do not need to exhaust yourself to be prepared. My child, I am watching over what you cannot, and I do not grow tired, I do not need rest, and I do not miss what matters. And when you remember this, even briefly, something within you can begin to soften. I am not asking you to forget your responsibilities. I am asking you to trust me with them for these moments, because you are allowed to rest even when life is unfinished. There will always be something left undone, something unresolved, something uncertain. And if you wait for perfect calm before resting, you will wait forever. But peace grows when you choose to rest in me despite imperfection. I see how stress has made your body tense, how your shoulders stay tight, your jaw clenched, your muscles ready even while lying still. And I want you to notice that now, not to judge it, but to gently release it, because your body has been trying to protect you all day, and it needs permission to stand down. My child, it is safe to rest here, safe to breathe deeply, safe to let go, because I am present, and my presence brings safety even when circumstances remain uncertain. You may not feel sleepy yet, and that is okay, because rest is not only sleep, it is the willingness to stop fighting, to stop rehearsing, and to allow yourself to be held. When your thoughts begin to race, do not argue with them, do not shame yourself. Simply bring them to me, one by one, because I am not overwhelmed by what overwhelms you. I know stress often comes from caring deeply, from wanting to do well, from fearing disappointment, and I see the goodness in that desire. Yet I want you to learn that caring does not require constant tension, and responsibility does not require self-punishment. My child, You are allowed to be human, allowed to need rest, allowed to feel tired, and allowed to pause without everything falling apart. I am not measuring your worth by your productivity tomorrow, and I am not disappointed by your need for sleep, because you were created to rest, and rest is part of how you remain whole. Stress tells you that you must hold yourself together, but I tell you that you are held, and that makes all the difference. I see how the quiet of night makes worries louder, how distractions fade and thoughts rise, and I want you to know that this quiet is not dangerous. It is simply space, and space can be filled with fear or with trust. My child, I am here to fill it with trust, gently, patiently, without pressure, and you do not need to force anything to happen. If your mind wanders, return to me. If your body feels restless, breathe with me. And if sleep does not come immediately, remain with me, because remaining is enough. You are not failing at rest because you are awake. You are learning how to rest by staying present instead of panicking. Peace does not demand instant results. It grows through patience, and I am patient with you. I know you fear the consequences of poor sleep, the fatigue, the fog, the mistakes, and I understand that fear. Yet I want you to hear me clearly now, because one night does not define your strength, and exhaustion does not cancel your worth. My child, I will give you what you need when you need it, and I will carry you through tomorrow just as I am carrying you through tonight. You do not need to borrow tomorrow's energy right now, and you do not need to punish yourself for what you cannot control. Stress tells you that everything depends on you, but I tell you that you are supported, guided, and sustained beyond your own effort. So stay with me here, in this quiet moment, even if your thoughts are still active, even if your body is still restless, because my peace does not wait for perfect conditions. Let your breath slow, let your shoulders drop, let the night be what it is, and allow yourself to rest in the truth that you are not alone, not abandoned, and not responsible for holding the world together. My child, listen to me now and let this settle deeply within you. You are safe, you are seen, and you can rest because I am awake, I am present, and I am holding you through this night.
My beloved child, I know how your mind keeps returning to the same thoughts, circling worries like unfinished loops, replaying what was said, what was not said, what might happen, and what you fear could go wrong. And I want you to hear me gently now, because a restless mind does not mean a faithless heart. It often means a caring one that has been stretched too far for too long. I see how you try to distract yourself, how you turn from one thought to another, hoping exhaustion will finally win, and how frustration grows when it does not. And I want you to know that I am not watching this moment with impatience. I am present with compassion, because I understand how difficult it is to ask your mind to be quiet after it has spent the whole day being responsible for everything. My child, your mind learned to stay alert because it believed that vigilance was necessary, that if it stopped thinking, something would be missed, something would break, something would fall apart. And I am here now to gently teach it that it does not have to carry that responsibility alone anymore. I know how thoughts feel louder at night, how silence amplifies concerns, how the absence of distraction makes worries feel heavier, and I understand why that silence can feel threatening. Yet I want you to hear this truth settle softly within you, because silence is not empty, it is filled with my presence. My child, you do not need to fill the quiet with solutions, plans, or answers, because the quiet is a place where I meet you, where I steady you, and where your heart can begin to rest, even if your mind is still active. You may feel tempted to judge yourself for not being able to calm down, to tell yourself you should be better at this, stronger at this, more spiritual than this. And I want you to release that judgment now, because judgment only tightens what needs to soften. I am not asking you to control your thoughts. I am asking you to bring them to me, because being held changes the weight of what you carry. I see how your mind jumps ahead, imagining tomorrow's demands, predicting fatigue, anticipating stress, and worrying about your ability to cope. And I want you to remember this, because tomorrow has not arrived yet, and you are not required to solve it tonight. My child, you are borrowing trouble from a moment that does not yet exist, and that borrowing is costing you rest now. And I am inviting you to return to this moment with me, where you are safe, supported, and not required to perform. You may not be able to stop thoughts from appearing, but you can choose not to chase them, not to argue with them, and not to let them define you, because thoughts are visitors, not authorities, and they do not get to decide whether you are safe. I know how stress has trained your mind to look for problems, to scan for threats, and to stay ready. And while that habit once felt necessary, it has become exhausting. And I am teaching your mind a new posture now, one of trust rather than vigilance. My child, trust does not mean ignoring reality. It means placing reality in my hands and allowing yourself to rest without guilt. You do not need to rehearse every possible outcome to be prepared, because preparation that costs your peace is not preparation at all. It is self-protection rooted in fear. I am not asking you to stop caring. I am asking you to stop carrying what was never meant to rest on your shoulders through the night. I see how your thoughts sometimes turn inward, criticizing your performance, replaying mistakes, magnifying small moments, and convincing you that rest must be earned. And I want you to hear me clearly now, because rest is not a reward for doing enough. It is a gift that sustains you so you can continue. My child, you do not have to be finished, perfect, or caught up to deserve rest, because rest is part of how you heal, how you recover, and how you remain whole. When your mind begins to accuse you, remind yourself gently that you are not on trial and that I am not measuring you by tonight's productivity or tomorrow's outcome. You are allowed to be unfinished and still be held. I know you sometimes feel disconnected from your body, lying still while your thoughts race, feeling tense without knowing how to release it, and I want you to bring awareness there now, not with urgency, but with kindness, because your body has been doing its best to protect you. My child, you can let your shoulders soften, your jaw unclench, your breath slow, not because everything is resolved, but because you are not alone. Each gentle breath is an act of trust. Each small release is a signal to your body that it is safe, and safety is what allows rest to grow. You may not feel immediate relief, and that is okay, because healing is not instant, it is patient, and I am patient with you. I see how your mind resists letting go, afraid that rest will make you careless, that calm will make you unprepared, and I want you to hear this truth now, because peace does not make you careless, it makes you clear. My child, clarity comes when the mind is rested, not when it is overworked. And by choosing to rest with me, you are not abandoning responsibility. You are trusting me to hold it for a while. You do not need to prove your commitment by staying tense, and you do not need to protect yourself by staying awake, because I am watching over you, and I do not sleep. So stay here with me now, even if your thoughts still come and go, even if sleep feels distant, because being held is not dependent on sleep, it is dependent on presence. When a thought rises, place it gently in my hands. When worry returns, breathe and remember you are not alone. And when fatigue presses in, allow yourself to rest without self-judgment. My child, your mind does not need to be perfectly quiet for peace to be present, because peace is not the absence of thought, it is the absence of threat, and you are safe with me.
My beloved child, I know how the night can feel heavier than the day, how darkness seems to amplify every concern, every fear, every unanswered question, and how lying awake makes worries feel closer and more urgent. And I want you to listen to me gently now, because I am watching over you in this very moment, and nothing about this night has taken me by surprise. I see how your thoughts slow, only to be replaced by emotions, a sense of unease, a quiet sadness, a heaviness you cannot always explain. And I understand how unsettling that feels, because when the world grows quiet, the heart often begins to speak more loudly. My child, this heaviness is not a sign that something is wrong with you, and it is not proof that you are failing at faith or rest. It is often the result of carrying too much without enough space to release it, and I am here now to create that space with you. You do not need to explain why you feel this way,
and you do not need to make sense of it before you are allowed to rest, because I understand what you cannot put into words. I know how the night can make you feel exposed, as though there is nothing to distract you from your thoughts, no noise to soften the edges of your worries, and I see how that vulnerability makes you uncomfortable. Yet I want you to hear me clearly now, because vulnerability in my presence is not dangerous, it is safe. My child, you do not need to guard yourself here, and you do not need to stay alert to protect your heart, because I am near, and my nearness brings safety, even when you feel unsure. I see how your body remains tense, how you listen for every sound, how you brace without realizing it, and I want you to know that you can let go now, not because everything is resolved, but because I am watching over what you cannot. You do not have to stay awake to keep yourself safe, and you do not have to monitor the night, because I am awake, attentive, and faithful. I know how stress has made you feel responsible for holding everything together, how it has convinced you that rest is risky, that letting go, even for a moment, could cause things to fall apart. And I want you to hear this truth settle deeply within you, because you are not the one holding the world together, and you never were. My child, I sustain what you cannot, I guard what you fear losing, and I work even when you are still. And remembering this allows your heart to soften in ways effort never could. You may not feel sleepy yet, and that is okay, because rest begins long before sleep arrives. It begins when you stop fighting the moment and allow yourself to be present with me. You are not required to make anything happen right now. You are only invited to remain. I see how your thoughts sometimes turn toward fear in the night, imagining worst-case scenarios, worrying about health, relationships, finances, or the future. And I understand why the unknown feels more threatening when you are tired. Yet I want you to hear me gently now, because fear grows in isolation, but it weakens in companionship. My child, you are not alone with these thoughts, and you do not need to wrestle with them by yourself, because I am here to hold them with you. When fear arises, do not rush to push it away. Simply notice it and bring it to me, because fear loses its power when it is no longer hidden or believed without question. You are safe in this moment, and this moment is all you are asked to live in right now. I know how nights like this can make you feel small, fragile, and unsure of your strength, and I want you to remember something important, because needing rest does not make you weak, it makes you human. My child, strength is not proven by endless endurance, it is sustained by rest, and I designed you with limits, not as flaws, but as invitations to trust. You do not need to earn rest by doing more, and you do not need to justify your tiredness, because you have carried enough for today. I am not disappointed in you for feeling worn down, and I am not asking you to push through this night with determination alone. I am asking you to lean into my care and allow yourself to be supported. I see how you sometimes fear the morning, worrying about how you will function, how you will cope, how you will show up if sleep does not come. And I understand that anxiety, yet I want you to hear me clearly now, because tomorrow will come with its own grace, and you will not face it without help. My child, you are not required to solve tomorrow tonight, and you are not expected to be strong in advance, because I will meet you there with what you need when you arrive. Borrowing strength from tomorrow only drains you now, and I am inviting you to return to this moment, where you are held, supported, and not required to perform. I know the night can make you question yourself, your choices, your direction, and your worth, and I want you to hear me now, because darkness has a way of distorting perspective, making problems feel larger and hope feel farther away. Yet nothing about the night changes the truth of who you are or how deeply you are loved. My child, you are not more vulnerable to judgment here, and you are not less protected because it is late, because my care does not dim with the light, and my presence does not fade with your energy.
even now, as you lie awake, you are seen, valued, and held with tenderness. So stay with me here, in this quiet space, even if sleep still feels distant, because remaining with me is already rest for your soul. Let your breath slow, let your body sink into the surface beneath you. Let the night be what it is without demanding anything from it, and trust that you are not alone in this heaviness. My child, I am watching over you, guarding you, and carrying what you cannot. And as you remain here, you may notice that the weight begins to ease, not because every worry disappears, but because you are no longer carrying them by yourself.
My beloved child, I know how frustrating it feels when rest seems just beyond your reach, when your body longs to sleep but your mind continues to hold on, when you want to surrender to the night but something inside you resists. And I want you to hear me gently now, because this resistance is not stubbornness, it is fear trying to protect you in the only way it knows how. I see how letting go feels risky to you, how releasing control feels like inviting chaos, how stillness feels unsafe when you have been responsible for so much for so long. And I understand why rest does not come easily, because you have learned to survive by staying alert. My child, I am not asking you to suddenly drop everything or to trust perfectly. I am teaching you slowly, patiently, how to loosen your grip one finger at a time. Because letting go is not an event, it is a process, and I am with you in every step of it. I know how your mind clings to problems at night, believing that holding on to them will somehow prevent them from becoming worse. And I want you to hear this truth now. Because worry does not guard the future, it only steals the present. My child, you are allowed to set your burdens down without resolving them, because unresolved does not mean unsafe, and unfinished does not mean abandoned. I am holding what you release, and I am faithful to carry it through the hours you cannot. You do not need to keep checking, reviewing, or rehearsing, because nothing requires your attention in this moment except your own well-being, and your well-being matters to me deeply. I see how stress has taught you to equate rest with irresponsibility, how you feel guilty when you stop thinking, how you fear that relaxing means you are failing to care enough, and I want you to hear me clearly now, because care that destroys you is not care at all. My child, rest is not neglect, it is stewardship of the life I have given you. And when you rest, you are honoring your limits rather than denying them. You were not designed to be vigilant without pause, and you were not meant to carry the weight of tomorrow through the night, because I am present in both, and I do not require your exhaustion to prove your devotion. I know you sometimes try to force yourself to relax, to calm down, to sleep, and that effort only makes rest feel farther away, and I want you to release that pressure now, because rest cannot be commanded, it must be invited. My child, you do not need to make yourself peaceful, you need to allow yourself to be held, because peace grows naturally when you stop striving for it. If your thoughts wander, let them wander without judgment. If your body shifts, let it shift without frustration. Because none of these things are failures, they are signs that you are human, and I am gentle with your humanity. I see how letting go feels like surrendering control, and that word frightens you, because surrender feels like losing something important. Yet I want you to understand that surrender with me is not loss, it is relief. My child, when you place control in my hands, you are not abandoning responsibility, you are sharing it. And shared weight is lighter weight. You do not need to trust everything all at once. You only need to trust me with this moment, this breath, this night, and that is enough. I am not asking you to predict tomorrow. I am asking you to remain here, where you are safe. I know how difficult it is to release thoughts that feel urgent, thoughts that insist on attention, thoughts that tell you rest can wait, and I want you to hear me now. Because urgency created by fear is not wisdom. My child, wisdom knows when to pause, when to breathe, and when to stop pushing, because pushing through exhaustion often leads to more harm than good.
You are allowed to rest even when problems remain, and you are allowed to be still even when answers are incomplete, because your worth is not measured by constant effort, and your safety is not dependent on constant awareness. I see how your body holds on to the day, carrying its tension into the night, and I want you to bring kindness there now, because your body has worked hard to support you, even when you were unaware of it. My child, you can allow your muscles to soften, your breath to deepen, your heartbeat to slow, not because everything is solved, but because you are not alone. Each gentle release is a message to your body that it does not need to stay on guard, and safety is what allows rest to deepen over time. You may not feel immediate change, and that is okay, because learning to let go happens gradually, and I am patient with your pace. I know you sometimes fear what will happen if you truly rest, if you stop thinking, if you stop planning, and I want you to hear me clearly now, because nothing will be lost, nothing will be forgotten, and nothing will fall apart when you rest in my care. My child, I have been holding your life long before this night, and I will continue to hold it long after, and your rest does not interrupt my work. You are not responsible for sustaining everything, and you never were, and remembering this allows your heart to unclench in ways effort never could. So let this night be what it is, without demanding sleep, without forcing calm, without judging yourself for what you feel, because rest begins when you stop fighting the moment and allow yourself to be present with me. My child, I am teaching you how to let go, gently, patiently, without fear. And as you remain here, you may notice that your thoughts slow, your body softens, and your heart begins to trust that it is safe to rest. And even if sleep does not come immediately, you are still being restored, still being cared for, and still being held.
My beloved child, as this night continues, I want you to notice something gentle beginning to happen within you. Not necessarily the sudden arrival of sleep, but a softening, a loosening, a quiet sense that you no longer have to hold everything so tightly. And this matters more than you realize, because peace often arrives before rest does, and peace is what prepares the way for sleep. I know how long you have carried stress into the night, how many evenings you have laid down exhausted yet unable to rest, and I want you to hear me clearly now, because I am not frustrated with your process, and I am not measuring this night by how quickly you fall asleep. I am present with you here, steady and patient, and my presence is enough to calm what has been strained for too long. You are not required to make sleep happen, and you do not need to force your body into rest, because rest is not something you achieve, it is something you receive when you feel safe, and safety grows when you remember that you are not alone. I see how peace begins to settle in small ways, in a slower breath, in a quieter chest, in thoughts that drift rather than race. And even if sleep has not arrived yet, these changes are signs that your nervous system is learning a new rhythm, one shaped by trust rather than vigilance. My child, stress taught you to stay alert, to stay ready, to stay tense, and unlearning that does not happen instantly, but it does happen faithfully as you remain with me. You may notice moments when your thoughts lose their urgency, when worries feel less demanding, when the need to solve everything loosens its grip. And these moments are not accidents. They are the fruit of choosing presence over panic. You are learning that nothing terrible happens when you stop striving, that the world does not collapse when you rest, and that truth is freeing your heart. I know there is still a part of you that listens for problems, that checks for danger, that waits for the next wave of worry. And I understand why that part exists, because it was formed in seasons when you had to be strong, when you had to manage more than you should have had to. And I am gentle with that part of you now. My child, you do not need to silence it harshly. You do not need to fight it. You can simply remind it that you are safe here, that you are held, and that I am awake even when you rest. Each time you remember this, that part of you learns that it can relax without fear, and over time, that learning becomes trust. I know how deeply you desire sleep, not just for your body, but for your mind, for the quiet it brings, for the relief it offers. And I want you to hear me now, because sleep will come. And when it does, it will not be because you forced it, but because you allowed yourself to be at peace. My child, peace is not fragile. It does not disappear because a thought appears, and it does not vanish because sleep is delayed, because peace is anchored in my presence, and I am here with you, regardless of what your body does next. You are not failing if you are still awake, and you are not doing something wrong if your mind wanders, because rest is not measured by minutes asleep. It is measured by how gently you treat yourself in the waiting. As this night continues, allow yourself to drift without expectation, to rest without pressure, to be present without fear, because nothing is required of you right now. My child, you can lay your worries down, not because they are solved, but because they are held. You can close your eyes, not because you are done, but because you are safe. And when sleep comes, whether quickly or slowly, know that it comes as a gift, not a reward, and that you are deeply cared for even before it arrives. Carry this truth with you into tomorrow and into the nights that follow. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to be unfinished, and you are allowed to trust that you are not responsible for holding everything together. I am with you when you lie down. I am with you when you wake, and I am with you in every quiet moment in between. My beloved, let peace be your companion now. Let rest find you gently, and remember that you are held, watched over, and deeply loved. If this message brought calm to your heart, eased your thoughts, or helped you rest tonight, subscribe to this channel and stay close, because I will continue to speak peace over you, guide you through heavy moments, and remind you again and again that you do not have to face stress, nights, or life alone.